Okay, I'm getting a little bit bored with this layout that we've got here. We've been using it for a long time now. I want you to create 3 divs which are going to be all on the same line, so all floated left, and I want them all to be 100 pixels by 100 pixels, and I want the first one to have a red background, the second one to have a blue background, and the third to have a green background. Okay, so pause this video now, take a few minutes, have a go at that. I'll see you in a moment. All done? I hope so. I'm just going to run through that process for you in case you had any problems with it, but hopefully you've had a chance to practice a bit of floating and a bit of creating some divs. So let's get rid of the styles that we've got so far so that we can start from scratch. And get rid of the content as well. Right, so I requested that we have 3 divs, 3 boxes. So we'll have the first one there. We'll put just a little bit of content in them. Oh, in fact, no, let's leave them blank. I put a space bar, a space just there, but we don't even really need that. So we're going to have 3 divs. They're all going to be 100 by 100. So why not just have a single style for divs, which is going to be width 100 px, 100 pixels, and height 100 pixels. So that's going to affect every div that we have here, and that's fine because we're only going to have 3, and we know that we want all of them to be 100 pixels by 100 pixels. So let's now create those 2 other divs and just see how that looks. Okay, we can't see anything because they're all white. They don't have their backgrounds yet. So we said that we wanted one to be red, one to be blue, and one to be green. There we go. Now obviously those classes don't do anything until we define what they mean. So let's make our red div have a background color of red. And I'm going to copy and paste that to save you watching me type. So the blue div will have a background color of blue. And the green div will have a background color of green. Now I could have used IDs there. That would have been just as good because we know that we're only going to have 1 of each of these, but it doesn't make any difference. We'll stick with classes. Okay, so now we're getting close. We've got our 3 divs, but I did state that I wanted them to go along from left to right. So that's very easily done. We just make all of them float left. Great, there we go. We've achieved the job. I don't quite like the fact that they're all touching each other like that, so I'm going to pop in a margin of 20 pixels all the way around for all of them, just to space them out a little bit so we can see that they're separate divs. Great, so that looks good. Now this exercise is actually talking about borders. So now that we've got our divs, we're going to give them different types of borders. So we can refer to the red border. We'll start with a nice straightforward one. So to add a border to a div, or indeed any element, use the border instruction. Now the first thing you need to give to the border instruction is the width of the border. So let's say we'll have a 5 pixels border, and let's see what that looks like. Nothing at all. That's because we have to give a bit more information than just 5 pixels. We need to give it a color as well. So let's have a 5 pixel black border. Still nothing. Okay, there's a third bit of information that we need to give to the border instruction, and that is what type of border it is. So let's have a 5 pixel black solid border. Hurrah! We've finally got something that works. So a border, you'll notice again, adds to the width of the div. So this total div, including the border, is now 110 pixels wide and high because it's got this 5 pixel border to the right, left, top and bottom. That's definitely something worth remembering. Of course, you can play around with all of those things. So let's make it 20 pixels. Got a really wide border now. We could change the color. So we can have a yellow border. Lovely. Okay, let's keep that one like that, even though it looks pretty horrendous. And we'll use the blue and the green divs to investigate some other things that we can do with borders. Right, so we've changed the color of the border and the width. What happens if we change this solid? So solid just means a solid border with no dashes or anything like that, but we can change that to a number of different values to make a different type of border. I've got the w3schools.com border style page here, which gives you a list of the different ones that you can have. So let's just try a couple and see how they look. So we might have dashed. Let's go over here, put in a dashed border, see how that looks. Okay, so we might try a dotted border. Let's see how that looks. So it's dotted like that. So let's try a few others, see how they look. If we try it dashed, there we get this sort of effect. It might be clearer if we do a thinner border. Normally you're talking 3 or 4 pixels with borders rather than 20. So if we make that a 2 pixel border, then you get a clearer kind of dashed effect. What other ones shall we try? Well, let's try inset and ridge, just to give you an idea of how they look. So inset looks like that, kind of 3D effect, and then ridged looks like that, so a slightly thinner 3D border. So you can play around with those in your own time if you like. Check them out. Really, they're not very commonly used other than the solid one, because normally you want a nice clean border, but it's obviously completely up to you. You can do what you like. These are the values that you can use for CSS borders. Right, now what if we want to have a different border on the top, left, bottom and right? We can do all of that as well. And we'll do it on the blue one. So we'll leave the red div as it is, but the blue div will then introduce some new border tags. So this border tag has a lot of information in it already. It's got the width, it's got the color, and it's got the type of border. Now we want to use a different instruction. So we're going to call this border style. So this is where we're going to set our border style. So we've got ridge and all of the other ones. We can actually set it to be different on the top, bottom, left and right. So maybe we want ridge, solid, dotted and dashed. Just have a look at those. Yep, so ridge, solid, dotted and dashed. Great. Now if we have a look at that, we've got ridged at the top, solid on the right, dotted on the bottom and dashed on the left. Nice. And you can see that it's defaulted to a black border there because we haven't actually given it a color or a width. So it's a black border of around 3 pixels or so. We can of course specify everything else as well. So border width, let's make that 10 pixels, 5 pixels, 3 pixels and 1 pixel. This is going to look pretty horrendous, but there we go. So we've got a different border width on each side of the div, and we can of course, if we really want to, specify a different border color for all of those as well. So let's have green, yellow, blue and black. Lovely. Doesn't that look great? So I wouldn't generally recommend using these in actual websites, but you've got the power there to set the border as whatever you like on the top, left, bottom and right. Okay, so what are we going to do with our green div? Well, we're going to use a related command called border radius. Now, the nice thing about border radius is it actually gives your div a nice curvy set of corners. So let's just see how that looks. Border radius 10 pixels Lovely, very nice. So this is something that I definitely recommend using in your websites. It does just give a square div a nice sort of softer appearance. Of course, you can change that border radius to anything you like. Note some old browsers don't support the border radius tag. If you want to have a look at that in a bit more detail, then check out the link in the docs. I'm not going to go into it in that much detail here. So the border radius of 10 pixels. One final thing to show you is that you can actually create a circle very easily with border radiuses. So we just create the border radius of 50 pixels, and because that's exactly half of the height of the div, the border radius is just a quarter of a circle. So it's a very easy way to create a circle using pure HTML and CSS, no images required.